He's not lonely, he's busy. The memory of the swim in amniotic fluid gives him energy and completion.
Right, this way, ladies and gentlemen. Would like to come forward down here, please. Are we all met? Yes, a few more behind. Right, are we all there? Yes. Right, good evening everyone. My name's Alan and I'd like to welcome you to this journey through Whitechapel to visit the site of the notorious murders of Jack the Ripper.
I wouldn't have if it wasn't for Frankie Trimmins. I met him at the Sunday market, corner of Grimsby Street. He was fleecing a crowd of early morning bargain hunters with his blatantly obvious find a lady scam. I felt sorry for him, so I shouted, "There's more chance of finding a lady down at Madame Jojo's." The place empties, apart from Frankie, me, Frankie's sidekick. He turns to the sidekick and laughs. "I think the lady's finally found me." His friends all called him Houdini because he could get out of almost any scrape. Then one day, he just disappeared off the scene. Just like that. Poof. Things got a bit tight for me. I ended up on the game. But then one day, someone sent me an envelope with some keys in it and an address written on the back of the Queen of Diamonds. And here I am. I never use it for punters though. I just couldn't.
As you can see, most of the architecture around here is modernised, but there's still evidence of Victorian architecture. Most of the streets would have been cobbled. This is probably one of the most dangerous areas of London in its time.
My granddad gave this to me as a present after I made my first confession. I used to practice in my room every single night. One of my favourites was, "Annie, I'm not your daddy." Kid Creole. Remember one time I had this really funny feeling that I was being watched. So I grabbed the doorknob and there was Grandad, standing there, with one hand holding up his de-elasticated pyjama bottoms and the other one holding a rolled up copy of the Catholic Herald. To this day, I still don't know whether he was wanking or praying. And then he shuffled off, mumbling, "Bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh."
Now, the first lady to be murdered by Jack the Ripper was actually Mary Ann Nichols. She was the daughter of a locksmith. Her first husband was William Nichols. Now, she had 5 children by this gentleman, the fourth of which actually William Nichols had an affair with the midwife who delivered the baby. Now, on the evening of the 31st of August, she had been discharged from the workhouse that evening for not having enough money for a bed. She actually needed, oh my goodness, these look ominous. Who needs Jack the Ripper? It's like me.
I mean, I don't really know what to think, about men on women. I mean, I know I prefer their company to women's. I like a man that knows how to splash out on a woman every now and again.
Now, the body was severely mutilated. There were 2 cuts to the throat, left to right. There was also an incision made right across the stomach area and the abdomen, revealing a large quantity of intestine. Some of the intestine was pulled out and placed on the right-hand side of the lady's pelvis.
Well, I don't think there's any point in looking for Mr. Right. I mean, they come, they go, love stuff's immature. When I was a little girl, I fell in love with a boy. His father was a teacher at my school, Mary Magdalene Convent School for Girls. He was lovely. We planned a pretend marriage ceremony. I stole some rings from my mum's jewellery box. She never knew I took them. Kids play. Anyway, the thing was, he never turned up. I waited and waited. He was so sweet. Looking for business? Hello again. Nice night for it.
Why are you going that way?
Got a light?
Now, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, just 3 weeks after the second murder of Annie Chapman. Now, there's a sense of calm in Whitechapel now because nothing has happened.
Hello? Dr. Benjism Spunk. Right. This is Nurse Luck, who'll return the feeling with her sexual healing and who'll resuscitate you with a good hard... Hey? Yes. I'm wearing my rubber blue and white nurse's uniform. What? Are you rotten sticky? Right, I better take your temperature. Oh my, you are burning up. Do you want me to give you a bed wash?
But on the 30th of September, the Ripper strikes again. Now, this victim was called Elizabeth Stride. Now, Miss Stride was Swedish. She actually went into service as a young girl out in Sweden, but soon fell into the trade of prostitution. Now, she came to England to try and make a life for herself, and she married a one John Stride.
Bondage my wound? What? Oh, bandage my wound. You've got a what? A special speculum? Where? Hypocritical oath? Yes, I have! Hello? Hello? Oh, shit.
Can I?
Shit! You are a regular little ninja curb crawler. Well, are you looking for business?
Yeah, I haven't got a car though.
I think you've done enough laps already, Damon.
What do you do?
I work in the tax office, love. Quiet little desk on the 4th floor. I guess I got a thing about fucking people for money.
I mean, sexually.
I know. Just yanking your chain. Hey, that'll cost extra. Okay then. Hand job 20, blow job 30, snatch job 50, fuck and suck 60.
Do you swallow?
Yeah, sweetie. And this is Pretty Woman. I'm Julia Roberts, you're Richard Gere. This is my first trick. I'm your first hooker. We fall in love, live happy ever after.
I take it you don't do anal.
Holy Virgin, the anal intruder. No, I'm keeping it special. It's my dream to marry a proctologist. I hope you understand.
Okay then, fucking suck, please. Is there anywhere to lie down?
Oh, I'm afraid the penthouse suite's let already.
Is it safe here? I don't want to be disturbed.
I think it's a little bit late for that.
But she was very keen on the liquor, which seems to be all the ladies of the time were in Whitechapel, prostitutes namely. And so the marriage crumbled, and she ended up plying her trade along the streets of Whitechapel.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck. Oh. They say it's good for the skin.
Pearls of wisdom from the man at Laboratoire Garnier. What is this? New range, creme de gonad, for young and healthy looking skin.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, why not, love? I feel like we're a lot closer now.
You know when Superman comes inside Lois Lane, do you think he blows her away?
What?
You know, when he comes inside super strength, do you think he goes right through her body and blows her head off?
I think you've got too much free time.
It'll all be over pretty quick for her.
What?
I mean, the last thing that will be going through her mind is Superman's spunk.
Not unless she had a kryptonite pussy. That'd show super dick.
Now, on the 30th of September, Miss Stride was seen outside, where is it now? Yes, she was seen walking along Berners Street off Commercial Road and being pursued by a young gentleman who was quite inebriate. He seemed to strike her down and pushed her into Dukefield's yard. Now, she was discovered her body at actually 1 o'clock. And she'd had 2 very severe lacerations across the throat. But the lady wasn't disemboweled. This is because the Ripper was disturbed. It was believed that he was disturbed by a gentleman called Louis Daimschultz, he was a Russian Jew who sold cheap jewellery like lockets and rings. Now, apparently Dimesholt saw disturbance, got away from his carriage and moved up to the murder site with this little tiny lantern. He looked down and he saw Miss Stride on the floor there. But because he had his light towards the ground, he didn't see the Ripper victim, murderer, who was actually running off in the distance. Had he had the lantern any higher, he might have seen the actual Ripper's face. But no, he wasn't that quick enough. So anyway, the Ripper fled off and made his way, according apparently, to Mitre Square, where only 45 minutes later he found his fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes. This is the evening they call the double event. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to follow me, we should be moving through to another area of Whitechapel. Now here we have the second victim, Annie Chapman. Now, apparently she was discovered at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, Miss Chapman's body was very, very badly mutilated. Though not only was her throat cut twice, it was cut very deep. Knife almost worked its way through the bone of the lady's neck. Also, incisions were made across the stomach and the abdomen area again. At this time, a lot of the intestine was drawn out and placed on the left-hand side of the lady's shoulder. Also, her kidneys, her liver, her heart, and a part of the lady's uterus was removed. There was also two brass rings. This is interesting to note. The two brass rings that Miss Chapman was wearing were tore off her fingers. Now, they were never found. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to follow me, we should be making our way to the 10 Bells Club, where actually some of the prostitutes used to drink themselves and find business. If you'd like to follow me, we should be moving through this area here.
Happy families. Reminds me of my old trouble and strife. Fairy tale wedding we had. Fucking grim.
Do you mind if I have some?
Nah, help yourself. You married yourself?
No.
Brought her in here the other day, the old trout. 3 geezers jumps on her and start beating her up. The barman says, "You going to help?" I said, "Nah, 3 will be enough." My wife is so fat, I've got to get a train and 2 buses to get on her good side.
Here's one for your wife. My ex is so ugly that when he was born, the nurse slapped his mother.
My wife...
My ex is so fat that I carry an aerial photograph of him. My ex is so fat that once he had a threesome, the other 2 never even met. My ex is so fat that his birthday's on the 13th, 40th and 15th of July. When I tell my ex to shift his arse, he has to make 2 trips.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what's your name?
Hello.
Mine's Blunt. There's a funny story about that. I went down to Brighton for a short break and I met this guy called Toupee. Well, we ends up on this boat with a Spanish guy called Mago, an Irish guy called Lucy, and a 6'5" pre-op transvestite from Grimsby of all places called Sugar Pie.
Hello?
Mago brings in this fucking huge bag of she and Lee. Sugar Pie just buries her head in it. She comes up and says, "I have always depended on the kindness of strangers, and they're passed out on my lap." Mago tries to revive her a little. She jumps up and she whips out her cock.
You'll be spanked for that, you bad little boy.
I reckon they'd have to perform the operation in installments.
Catch a grip, Johnny.
I'm not that way inclined, but it seemed an awful waste of cock.
Have you got the soap?
Well, she stood there, cocking
Up your bum.
life sure is complicated. And the last thing she says before going under the knife is...
Those your nuts?
No. She said they'd make a lovely pair of earrings.
Sorry, it's the neighbour's children playing soccer against the wall. My shitbox is all clean now.
And as soon as everyone sees her pussy, they all agree it looks the spitting image of me. And that's how I got my name.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand. I better see the other one. A matching pair. Turn them over. Do you believe in fairy stories?
Read a couple of Quentin Crisps.
Keep them closed tight. A long time ago there lived a very powerful king who ruled his land with his fair and honest queen. The king wanted a child to inherit his throne, and very soon his queen became pregnant. But she died, giving birth to twins, a girl followed closely by a boy. The king cremated his beloved wife and wore her ashes in this locket around his neck. Now, no one was quite sure who was born first, the girl or the boy, so both of them were brought up as equals. And both grew up to be as intelligent and as beautiful as the other. Now, when the king became old, his advisors hatched a plan. The girl and the boy should both run to the grain mills and fill their hands with grain, and whoever had the most grain in their hands would be crowned. May I? Now, the king, well, he wanted his son to win. So the night before, he crept into his son's bedroom and touched the sleeping boy's hands with the ash from the locket. To bring him good luck. The following morning, the boy and the girl both ran to the grain mills and both filled their hands with grain. They just got to the palace gates when the boy became afraid that his sister might win. So do you know what he did? He tricked her, the bastard, and she fell, spilling all the grain from her hands. When they stood before the king, the girl opened her hands to reveal only a few grains. The king, well, he was pleased. And then he asked to see how his boy had done. When he opened his hands, the ash had burned holes straight through his palms, and all the grain had fallen to the ground. The girl became queen that day, and she ruled for 50 years.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in Mitre Square, where the Ripper struck again, the fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes. Now, don't forget, this was the very same evening that Elizabeth Sprite was murdered. Now, her first relationship was with a Thomas Watkins. He was much older than herself. After that, she fell in with another relationship with a John Kelly. Now, that very evening, Miss Eddowes left John Kelly to go and find a friend that she had supposedly that would lend her money, who was by the name of Annie. And it was just off Aldgate High Street that Miss Eddowes was found severely drunk. She'd attracted a large crowd and she was impersonating a fire engine. How you do that, I don't know. Don't ask me to do it now, please. But anyway, Miss Eddowes fell asleep on the pavement and she was taken to Bishopsgate Police Station, where she was detained for several hours until she was sober. She was then, an inspector came round to see her, and she sobered up and she started singing small lullabies and songs like that, and they eventually let her go about 1 o'clock. I think her last words to the police officer was, "Good night, old cock." Anyway, then she met at 1 o'clock. That precise time, of course, was the murder of Elizabeth Stride. That was the famous double event of the two murders. P.C. Watkins discovered the body of Miss Eddowes at 1:45, exactly 45 minutes after the murder of Elizabeth Stride. And it was actually here in this spot. Now, the body was laid out. Now, this was severely mutilated murder victim. Not only was the neck lacerated twice, left to right, but the face was also scored with a knife at various areas. Also, the legs were scored as well. Again, the body was split open at the stomach and the abdomen, and a large quantity of the intestine was just thrown all over the place. There was a lot of blood with this victim. If you'd like to follow me, we should move through this area here.
What's that you're reading?
The history of sexuality.
Born without the pictures. Can I see?
Sure.
In this work, I set out to understand the source of our recent pursuit of the truth about sex. Blah, blah. What structure of power motivates this will to sexual truth? Blah, blah. Isn't there anything more interesting to read than this? Once upon a time, a genie gave a magical ring to a sultan who had become jaded by his life. I love magic stories. When the sultan wore the ring and pointed it towards a woman, her sex organs spoke to him freely. It answered every question he asked, revealing its mistress's most private secrets. That's a clever trick.
Really? Do you think so?
Should we try?
Sure.
Can you hear anything?
Not a monosyllable.
Ask it a question.
I really don't know what to ask, are you?
I think we should catch up with the rest, don't you?
Yeah.
Right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's about a month, possibly 5-6 weeks before the Ripper strikes again. It is the 9th of November. It is the actual day of the Lord Mayor's show, and the Ripper does strike again this evening. Now, this character, this lady, by the way, was called Mary Jane Kelly. Mary Jane Kelly was born in Limerick, and she moved to Wales as a young girl. And there she met and married a gentleman called Davis, who was a collier. Unfortunately, he was killed in an industrial accident, so she eventually moved to Cardiff, where she actually took up the trade of prostitution. After a short while, she was very ill during that period, but after a short while she moved to London, and she actually worked for a high-class brothel in the West End of London. During this time, she was seen riding very expensive carriages, and she's also taking frequent trips to France with various rich clients. But after a short while, she ended up in the Whitechapel area of the East End here. The police were called immediately, and they broke down the door and found inside the premises Miss Kelly. She was laid out in the middle of the bed. Her body was severely mutilated. In fact, her face was hacked so badly that they couldn't recognize her. Now, also the Ripper had sliced her open very deeply and removed most of her body parts, of which he'd placed in various areas of the room, which was only 10 by 12. It is believed that there was a log fire that was burning most of the night, because this was a professional removal of the body parts. This gentleman knew what he was doing. He was obviously a surgeon of some kind. Also, There were parts of flesh left on the bedside table, and also there was blood all over the floor. In fact, the police officers slipped on the floor because it was so congealed. So this was the most atrocious of all the murders. In fact, at the end, the murderer placed the victim's hands inside the body like that after he'd killed her. So she was very badly mutilated. Even her legs were sliced all over, and arms and everything. Anyway, that's the conclusion tonight, and if you'd like to join me, we shall make our way now to the 10 Bells pub again, where I can enjoy a nice pint, if you'd like to join me as well. Come this way. Oh.
I saw her. Her comings and goings. Watched the men, the manipulation, the rond. I think the only unobserved act she performed was her shit, which she teased from her fundament most mornings just after her second coffee. Her life's details captured me. I felt like Darwin, gathering facts for the descent of man. How men have changed. How women have changed. The bolted girdle withering. Until this. This unspoken female game. Uterus. Locus of morality. And the plethoric grail against which we rub our styptic pencils. For moments only, a flash. Selfish genes committing one to another. Equally. Permanently. Dashed together in a fuck. And the commitment following. Generation upon generation. Wait. Not so fast. The genes aren't so equal after all. No. They're suckled and fostered in one sex only. The female. How did our uterine brotherhood respond to the mistrust engendered by ungirded female loins, which produces streams of inheritors, all unquestionably hers? They made a bond of her sex, shaping it into a dumb political dangle, veiling, chaperoning, infibulating, obliging it to prove its virginity, gifting it a belt and keyless lock. But Houdini's gene no doubt is tied to the X chromosome. Then the asylum. Mr. Rochester's basement of fallen women and hysterics. A prison for obdurate uteri. Not enough? One more? You want to hear it confess its sins too? Slowly the thought. Prison is too liberal for her trespass. Let's see it bleed. Control regained. The uterus is butchered, plied, stolen, branded, observed, held in a vengeful fist on account of its licentiousness. The brotherhood is sure again, at last. For now. But stop this. We're enlightened now, aren't we? We've evolved. Now control is exercised through science. We scribble down notes about all of these sexual antics, which we somehow half knew were being enacted under our very own noses. Always trust your sense of smell. We diagram sexual attraction between bodies. Smaller movements, slower movements, more frequent movements, etc. We've unstiffened our rein arm and instead proliferated affiliation orders until it comes to this: observations and conversations with dissembling wombs.
Should we try?
Sure.
Can you hear anything?
Not a monosyllable.
Nothing else would matter in the world today. We could go on loving in the same way. A garden of Eden made just for two, with nothing to mar our joy. If I were the only girl in the world, and you were the
Ask it a question.
Really don't know what to ask.
I think we should catch up with the others, don't you?
Yeah.
Finally, the clandestine uterus is unveiled. Hiding what exactly? Hiding its fertility cycle from a rogues gallery of impotent men.